Hello, friends, and welcome to the Vegas 10. It is episode number 4. My name is Dave Farrow. We appreciate you joining us every single week, running down 10 great things to do in Las Vegas. And sometimes it's immediately going on this week. Sometimes it's things in the future. Or sometimes, Matt, it's just the big stories that everyone's talking about, which is where we will start today. So many places around the country are dealing with this right now. Las Vegas is no exception. There was talk about, moving into phase 2 and what that meant for the city of Las Vegas, and then potentially maybe even relatively quickly getting to phase number 3, and that is not going to happen. So phase number 2 is where Las Vegas is going to be throughout the remainder of July. The governor has come out, Steve Sisolak, and obviously with numbers kind of bouncing around, especially in states that surround Nevada. We're seeing a lot of cases in Arizona, a lot of cases in California, and as a result, they are taking the more cautious approach, which is probably the wise thing to do here. But phase number 2 is where we will remain locked, at least for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate, but, listen, we're trying to be as safe as humanly possible here in Vegas. Governor Sisolak put out a tweet, said today, which this was yesterday, I signed a directive extending phase 2 of Nevada's reopening plan until the end of July, consistent with my announcement last week. The extension is necessary due to trends in our COVID-19 data. Please remember to wear a face covering and practice social distancing. And so listen, this is what we talked about last week on the show, mandated now for anytime you enter a casino property here in Las Vegas that you're going to need to have some sort of face covering on. And now look, guys, this isn't just like here now, like there are MGM properties obviously all over the country. There are Caesars properties all over the country. This has now been implemented just in all the casinos all over the country. So this isn't just like, oh, you're coming to Vegas and this is the process that's going on here. If you're walking in an MGM property, and there's a lot of them across the country, if you're walking in a Caesars property, and there's a lot of them across the country right now, you're going to have to wear some sort of face covering when you go through. They are trying to be as cautious as humanly possible in order to keep these businesses open so people can enjoy their time in these various cities, and especially here in Las Vegas.
And I'm actually going to take kind of a slightly different perspective from this. I know a lot of people are unhappy that we weren't able to go into phase 3, but I'm actually very happy that we haven't regressed to stage 1, because that's where, with the cases across the nation getting as bad as they have been, there was a possibility that could have happened. So I'm glad that we are staying here in phase number 2, wearing the masks and, moving forward with being as safe as we can while enjoying the amazing entertainment that this city has to offer.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's actually the big takeaway here, right? I mean, what we're seeing is we didn't roll back things that we had already had going on here. And if you look across this country, I mean, beaches are closing in California, bars are closing in Texas, Arizona's shutting down gyms and bars and all of that. So we didn't roll backwards here. We just stayed the same. And I mean, look, it's maybe not incredibly ideal for a lot of people out there who were looking forward to moving to phase 3 and some of the other things opening up and some of the restrictions lightening up. But again, abundance of caution is kind of how we're going with this approach here in Las Vegas. And I'm like you, Jason, I don't hate it. I think it is something that I am pretty okay with, actually, because what I don't want to see is that rollback. And a lot of people were very worried that actually was going to happen here, and that has not happened. And hopefully we can continue to kind of practice this social distancing, to keep these masks on whenever we go into public. And, maybe this time, a month from now, whenever we're doing this show at the beginning of August, we're talking about moving into phase 3. Who knows?
And we actually all three went out over the weekend and had some experiences in a Las Vegas casino. Walking into those casinos, they have the thermal scanners up. They have masks ready if you don't happen to have a mask on you or if you forgot it down in your car. So it really couldn't have been easier, in my opinion, the way that at least the Venetian and the Palazzo are doing it where we were at this past weekend.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning that, I mean, the casinos are seeing some pretty big crowds, right? So people, masking up and staying safe is not just something that you go, oh, well, this is a nice touch. It really does feel necessary, right? Because there's a lot of people in these casinos, and as you're sitting down, you're eating and you're drinking. Like, we had a small group with us this weekend that we went out to eat with. You obviously wear your mask when you walk through the restaurant. You go sit down at your table, and then you take it off and you enjoy your drinks and your meal and everything else. So it's not like, it's really that big of an inconvenience. And that's where we're going to be for a while. So might as well get used to it, right? And then just have a mask handy. And like you said, Mahoney, in some cases, if you don't have a mask with you when you go out, if you forget your mask, the casinos are going above and beyond to make sure that they're providing those things to people that want them.
Yeah, I mean, this takes us into kind of number 2 here on our list, was kind of like, well, what was it like for us, right? I mean, we all, and when you say small group, it was just us, right? I mean, so it was just us. It really was a small group. It was just us. We go out and we kind of experienced it. And this is actually the second casino I've been to. I went into Red Rock. I had some sportsbook stuff to take care of there. So I've actually been in Red Rock as well to kind of see how that has been laid out. But
Some
you know, guys,
we to take care of. You mean like placing some bets?
Sportsbook stuff. So that's some sportsbook stuff to take care of.
You know, business to take care of. Yeah, we're not your wife. You can just tell us what's up, man. It's fine.
Sportsbook things, you know.
She's not watching.
Get some money, you know. Get some money. But like, you know, like you said, I mean, we walked right in. I mean, that's the thermal scanning thing was actually even like more swift than I even thought. I mean, like we literally just walked right through the thing, and like they only stopped the people who were, you know, a little bit hot and gave them kind of like an extra test to make sure that what was going on, that they weren't above the threshold there or whatever. But yeah, walked right in. Everybody was wearing their mask, and it seemed like everyone was still having fun. I mean, like we got done with our meal. We took in the end of the UFC fight at one of the bars there right on the casino floor. Everybody was just kind of still hanging out. I mean, yeah, you're masked up and whatever, but I think people are starting to understand that for the foreseeable future, this is just kind of going to have to be how we enjoy ourselves, right? I mean, like we're going to have to find ways to enjoy ourselves with a mask on. It just is what it is. And so, yeah, everybody was, like you said, Dave, the casino floor was pretty packed for what it could be. Again, there's the plexi up on the games and the limited seating and all the different things like that. But for what they could actually put on the floor, it seemed like it was pretty good as well. There was a nice little energy, a nice little buzz, and it felt
everybody seemed like they were having fun.
Right as possible, right? I mean, like it felt as right as it could be. I mean, I understand that there is
it really did.
Right.
No. And it felt like normal to me because I played Willy Wonka and I lost $200 and yeah, without winning a single time. So yeah, that felt about right. Yeah, I was like,
I played right back in.
I remember this. Yeah,
nature is healing. Yes, Willy Wonka will still take all of your money. No, but I mean the point was, I mean we all went out and we'll actually talk about the restaurant in our restaurant spotlight a little bit later as we go down our list here. But yeah, we all went out, had a great meal, and got drunk and had a whole lot of fun, which is exactly what you'd hope to do on a Saturday night in Las Vegas. So that's number 2 on the list, Matt. As we continue down here on the Vegas 10, number 3 is actually some rather unfortunate news, but it's what we're hearing with a lot of these companies around the country. You know, Cirque du Soliel has filed for bankruptcy, so they've had to lay off a lot of people, which stinks for locals in Las Vegas because a lot of those people live here, obviously. But about 3,500 people are being laid off. But this doesn't mean the end of Cirque du Soliel as you know it. So if you love coming to Las Vegas, or if you're a local here and you love going down and checking out these shows from time to time, it's not the end of these, but this is protection from some of the creditors that, and I mean, we're seeing companies all over the place, everything from Chuck E. Cheese to GNC, you know, are doing restructuring
Pier
right
1
now.
Imports. You know, I mean, we're seeing everything.
Pier 1 is actually gone, right? So Pier 1's toast. A lot of these other companies are filing for protection, and that's what Cirque is doing. So the shows will remain, we think, whenever they're able to open again, which we're not at that point right now, but they are going to be restructuring, and that means, unfortunately, that people are going to lose their jobs for the time being, and hopefully when the time is right, they'll be able to be brought back in full force.
Yeah, I mean, the actual quote here seems pretty good, right? They went out and found some people that are going to be able to infuse some cash into the company. And it said the bid includes the intent to rehire a substantial majority of the terminated employees, business conditions allowing, when its operations can resume. And so again, had we been able to move into phase 3 here in Nevada, we might have had, you know, even some better news here when it comes to Cirque. But, you know, look, again, we're going to have to kind of tiptoe back into this. We're easing back into things here, but that's a very positive statement for not only for, you know, Las Vegas, but look, we care about these people too. I mean, they're residents here of our city. They're part of day-to-day life here for us. And there's a lot of them, man. There's a lot of shows, and it takes a lot of people to make those shows happen up and down the strip. So we're not talking about just, you know, a couple dozen people here. You know, we are talking about hundreds and thousands of people, that make all these shows happen.
3,500 people is who they laid off. So you're right. It's not just, the trapeze artists and the people that you see flying through the air. I mean, there's countless number of production people behind the scenes that are working hard.
The musicians,
to make
the
all
front of the
that
house,
work.
the back of the house. Yeah. The concessions. I mean, everything.
Producers,
There's so many. Yeah. And Cirque has been such a big part of Las Vegas. And, I can't imagine, that we, even if things were to continue the way that they are, I think that we will have Cirque back in Las Vegas. It feels like it's just part of the Vegas lifeblood at this point. Those shows are so good. They're so world renowned, and they've just kind of become synonymous. Even though Cirque is a worldwide company, as you pointed out, they have become so synonymous with Las Vegas that I feel like when we are able to get back to the how things were before, they will be back in full force.
Y'all ever done Zumanity? Y'all ever done Zumanity?
Yeah, that's the movie one. That's everyone's running around with the movies.
I mean, Zumanity is like it
was the first Cirque show I saw.
Put it towards the bottom. I put it towards the bottom. Did you like it? Really?
The first time I saw it, I was because I'd heard about Cirque du Soliel and I was kind of curious. So that was my first experience into Cirque, and I was like, that was not what I was expecting. It wasn't bad. It was interesting. But Dave and I ended up seeing it years ago, maybe about 10 years ago together. No, I mean, we weren't like together. It was a work thing. We snuck away and we went and saw Zumanity. And I would say the second time I saw it a few years ago, it was absolutely, I loved it. I appreciated it so much more because I kind of knew what I was going into it beforehand. So I actually really liked Zumanity. I thought it was one of the better ones.
They're all good. I mean, my parents were playing Beatles like in my house constantly growing up, and so Love over at the Mirage, like I've seen it 4 or 5 times now. I guess it does take me back to my childhood, right? Like it does take me back to my parents playing the Beatles in our house and things like that. And then the other thing that show does, which is pretty powerful, even though we didn't live through it, is as those songs are playing, like on that background screen where it's showing you what was going on in the world at the time, right? Like it's showing you the scenes.
A lot of parallels to right now.
Yeah, right. I mean, there will be,
but yes,
there will be things written about 2020. There's definitely no doubt about that. But the stuff that's going on in the world behind you, and then the songs are playing, and you start to kind of make that connection, and you realize like why the Beatles were so important to our parents and why they were so important to the people of that time and stuff. And even though we weren't a part of that, you do kind of get, you start to get that feeling and understanding of what was going on. Then that show to me is just, I could watch it. I could go see that thing once a month. Like
I think even if you're not a Beatles fan, it's worth going to, because I mean, just the acrobatics and the entire production value, like you said, is just absolutely amazing.
Well, and it gives you a whole new appreciation for the music, too, because you realize that it really was a soundtrack that was scored to a very deliberate time in history. Kirsten over on Facebook said, as a teacher, I had a parent who was a part of Ka, and they were so generous. They sent us to one of his shows. Those shows are amazing. Ka is another really kind of over-the-top one that you find over at MGM. That one's fantastic. But
the rotating stage
good to see that.
Is unreal.
I mean, it's insane the production level that goes into all of those shows. So it stinks that they're having to file for bankruptcy and they're having to lay people off. But hopefully, this means that the company and the shows will survive here in Las Vegas for many years to come. Number 4, the Vegas 10 this week is, we mentioned it last week, but it bears repeating because it is a significant deal, especially with the way the weather's been going. Been very hot here in Las Vegas, and people have been curious. Well, can I get out and enjoy the pools? And the short answer is yes, you can. So a lot of the pool parties are opening back up starting Thursday of this week. So right before the 4th of July weekend, you can get back out there and enjoy places like Wet Republic. And you do have to make a reservation. And that's one thing that we would definitely encourage you to do, and not just the day of. So if you're a local or you're coming in from out of town or whatever it may be, with these pool parties, they are going to fill up fast. And
because
especially if you have a larger
they're
group.
limited. Yeah, there's not very many of them. So it's going to be like the hot ticket for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, as we look here at the weather for this 4th of July week, right? So a lot of people have Friday off of work, and so maybe they're coming in from Southern California on, say, a Thursday. 100 degrees on Thursday, Friday's 102, and then Saturday, the actual 4th of July, is 105. So, I mean, while that sounds hot, that's actually a little cooler than it's been this past week in Las Vegas, but It looks like it's going to be sunny, not too windy, and around the 100-degree mark, which means those pools are going to be jammed. So if you are coming into Las Vegas this weekend or planning a pool party, I would say make a reservation like now as you're watching
summer
this.
Body is ready right now, though.
No.
Can we all just wear like parkas or something out at those pools? Because
man, wear that guy at the pool. Yeah, so summer body 2020. Except for Matt, who loves doing push-ups outside by himself.
I did get very tan. I'll admit, I did get very tan over quarantine. Like
he's the only guy who got in better shape. How did that happen?
Even more tan. Well, you're such a dick. Put your shirt on. You're embarrassing the rest of us. But pool parties are back, as is the Aria and Luxor and Mandalay Bay and Delano. So more properties opening up here in Las Vegas as of this week as well. Now, Matt, you actually decided that we were going to highlight a couple of new restaurants that are on the way to Las Vegas. So we'll talk about one of our favorite spots that we actually all attended over the weekend. But there's some new restaurants and bars that are opening up as well. So what do you have on the docket as far as new places that people should be checking out?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you're coming in town, might as well check out something new, right? And over at the Flamingo, it's called Bugsy and Myers. It's a new steakhouse over there. This is, if you remember the Flamingo, very, 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 the name itself, very, very, very synonymous with Las Vegas. Back in 1946 is when it actually opened. And so what they did is they are actually kind of paying homage to the gangsters that started it in Bugsy Siegel and Meyer Lansky here, calling it Bugsy and Myers. And, listen, a Chicago chef named Lamar Boer won a Food Network competition called Vegas Chef Prize Fight to actually become the head chef of this restaurant. And so we can't speak on this. We will definitely check it out and make it one of our spotlight restaurants down the line here. But if you guys are coming in town this weekend and you check it out, be sure and hit us up. Let us know how it is, because it's something we're anytime a new restaurant opens, especially a new steakhouse, you can believe that the three of us are going to be all over it. So very interesting. And I thought the name too, guys, was pretty interesting as well, that we're going to go ahead and get back to those mob ties here in Las Vegas.
I like it, man. Yeah, a little tip of the cap to the gangsters that started our fine city. And from the first pass of the menu there, I mean, it's got kind of all the makings that you'd hope from a good steakhouse, right? I mean, the seafood tower sounds awesome. The shellfish cocktails, a bunch of those appetizers actually look really good there. Between the crab cake, which sound delicious. The steaks actually aren't ridiculous. So I mean, the appetizers, as you can see, I mean, they're not cheap, right? I mean, $24 for shellfish cocktails, that's pretty spendy. But then when you get down to the steaks,
this is going to be a high-end restaurant for sure.
It's definitely a high-end place, but I mean the cuts of meat that they have down there are not really that insane as far as the pricing on them. So when you're talking about in the $48 range for an 8-ounce fillet, that's not a terrible deal for you. So I mean, obviously some of the stuff's more expensive, but definitely going to make the list. We'll go check it out as well, and we'll have a review for you on a later show.
And love that they're bringing back the prime rib. I mean, that is such a old school Vegas staple that you don't see many places anymore, because prime rib, I mean, I feel like that's such a kind of it's a forgotten cut of meat that is done so well. So I love seeing that they're paying homage to the old school Vegas ties in that way as well.
And the other cool thing, I think, as well, is that it's not one of these, nothing against celebrity chefs. Obviously, our restaurant that we're going to spotlight this week is from a celebrity chef, and it is phenomenal. However, that this guy kind of won his way into being the head chef at this restaurant also it's kind of cool, right? I mean, just something different when it comes down to it. But yeah, down on Fremont, we're going to have a bar opening up as well. Lucky Day Tequila and Mezcal House is opening down on Fremont. Cool. And yeah, if you guys want to head down there, 3,000 square foot place. If you guys remember Vanguard Lounge, it's taking over that spot down there. Mm-hmm. Small batch tequilas and rare mezcals is what this is going to offer you. And if you're wondering what kind of experience you're going to get, it's from the same owners as Commonwealth Park on Fremont. They actually have a couple of other places that they are going to be opening called Cheap Shot and We All Scream as well. So that's what they got going on down there. I mean, they made a DJ booth out of a salvage church pulpit. They do have a dance floor. They're going to have some Latin music for you and all of that. But, look, another place down on Fremont to check out. We mentioned that on the first few shows is to be sure and try to make it down there whenever you come to Vegas. And this is going to be a new place that will be opening for you this coming weekend. So, well, early July, they're going to try to get it open this weekend is what they were saying, but definitely early July at the latest here. And again, it's from the people at Commonwealth that we talked about last week.
I love the revitalization of Fremont.
Yeah, Fremont Street, Fremont East has done such a fantastic job. Obviously, with Cirque coming into town, which is the big new casino that they're building down there that's going to be opening later this fall. There's a lot of excitement about downtown Las Vegas, but I mean, this has been years in the making. Fremont Street, has really done a nice job of cleaning up just that whole Fremont Street experience. There's lots of great free concerts that they do down there. Fremont East is just loaded with I would say the most. The most character that you're going to find in a bar district in Las Vegas is right there on Fremont Street and Fremont East, because there's lots of plenty of good watering holes around Las Vegas, but as far as like a bar district, it's harder to find because of the way the city is spread out. But Fremont East is a great spot, lots of characters, so I would highly recommend going down there and checking it out. The one thing to note here is that this place looks relatively small, right?
I love it, yeah.
I love that part too, but for me, I would choose to go either earlier in the evening or later in the night, because getting all crammed in there, it's just there's not a lot of seats, right? So going in there and maybe enjoying a cocktail before you take on a show or do dinner or something like that seems like it makes a whole lot of sense.
Well, the ceiling,
Dave, as you mentioned.
Amazing.
It actually goes ahead and says it right here. It is 103 is the capacity there. So as we know, we're only seating 50% right now. So yeah, you're only going to be in there with about 50 other people whenever you are taking it in. So yeah, it's going to be limited seating, but hey, that sounds pretty awesome to me. I mean, getting in there and doing that. Guys, Latin music. Dave, when was the last time you tore it up on the dance floor to Latin music? I mean, like, are we going to go down there?
Beautiful red dress that twirls when I do my little spins. Yeah.
Mahoney, where's your Latin aficionado? Where's your Latin dance game these days?
Depends on how much tequila I have to drink, and if they have a lot of small batch tequila, and bourbon are the two new spirits that are just blowing up, and that I love that we're seeing these. It was the craft beer explosion a few years ago. Now we're seeing these bourbon and we're seeing these tequila bars that are popping up and that are catering to those crowds, and I'm all for it. I absolutely, and plus, like I said, the ambiance in there looks to be pretty amazing. So, like I said, the further revitalization of Fremont is a good thing, and who knows where we're going to be sitting in 5 years after Circa's up and running. I have a feeling that this is kind of we're right at the beginning of a Fremontissance is what I want to call it.
Oh, so I like it. I like it. I do like that.
Troy is doubting your Latin dancing game over on Facebook. He said that he has no Latin dancing game. Guillermo said, "I'm curious how they keep track of the people inside to determine half capacity." I guess it just depends on the establishment, but these guys. They all have little clickers at the doors to determine who's in.
And they probably actually just remove tables to where they only have like that many seats in the place, right? I imagine that's because we saw that even at these restaurants here. But we'll check that place out as well and give you our review, and definitely we'll give you the Mahoney Latin dancing review as well, because I mean that's what we all want.
Mahoney just decided to shut his camera off because he's so embarrassed of it. But listen to this. So Guillermo said, sounds awful to have to review a steakhouse talking about the Bugsies and Meyer that we were just talking about a few minutes ago over at Flamingo. Such torture. It really is. I mean, Matt, and that's part of why we do this on a regular basis, is because it's our duty to go out and eat these steak dinners and go to these cool tequila bars. So that way we can inform people that are coming in from out of town, obviously a lot of locals as well, that want information on the new things that are opening up, which is what leads us directly to number 6 on the Vegas 10, which is the restaurant that we all enjoyed this past weekend. It's Cut at Palazzo, and if you are looking for a very good and frankly rather expensive dinner, Cut is the place to go. So, as you can see there down underneath the word Cut, it says steakhouse, dinner, fine dining, and then it has 4 of them little dollar signs, which means it ain't going to be cheap when you go there. In fact, Matt and I were both big fans of red wine, so we decided to get literally, I believe, the cheapest bottle of red wine on the menu, which was around $120 if I remember correctly. So I mean, it's not gonna
112. We were frugal.
112.
We were
That's right.
frugal.
That's right.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
it was
a little
100.
bit-
It was 125.
Okay, so whatever it was the cheapest one that we could find on the menu. But as you see here, I mean, the same thing. They have the big seafood tower, which was phenomenal. We got that, and then the cuts of steak. If you want to scroll down just a little bit there, Mahoney, the American Wagyu is ridiculous. So I know that myself and Matt, did you also get the Wagyu, Mahoney?
Yes, I got the American Wagyu, but I've eaten in prior times when times were good in the Mahoney household. I have sprung for the Japanese purebred Wagyu beef, and notice that there is not I don't know if there's a price that's listed there, and usually when there's not a price listed on the menu, yeah, you know it's going to be expensive, but I will say this. It was the absolute best steak that I have ever had in my entire life. If you could visualize steak as butter, that is what that Japanese Wagyu is. It literally melts in your mouth. It is one of the most decadent and one of the most ridiculous things you could possibly spend your money on, and I feel like it's worth every nickel, even though it's going to cost a lot of nickels to do that. But the staff at Cut is amazing. The service at Cut is amazing, and if you are looking for just some of the best beef, not just in Las Vegas, but anywhere in the world, I cannot recommend Wolfgang Puck's Cut at the Venetian Palazzo higher.
And you say that, and like that is actually not exaggeration, Dave. You and I have been fortunate enough in our prior, lives to travel all over the country, a couple times a month, chasing those UFC fights, and we were eating all over the world, and really and truly, this is one of the best meals you were going to have anywhere in the world. And I'm not saying that just to blow up the place. I mean, listen, that American Wagyu is not cheap, but I'll tell you, you get done with that and you do not feel guilty at all that you splurged for the American Wagyu, Dave. I know you were sitting there.
$89 for an 8 ounce.
Yeah.
For an 8 ounce, for an 8 ounce filet. Yeah.
No, I think it was $89 for the 6 ounce, and then you added 2 ounces on, and then it went north of $100 per steak. So,
well,
Chris said it definitely ain't cheap, but it's worth it. And then Troy just straight up asked us what the tab was. I'll tell you because I don't care. So there was a total of 6 of us that went.
It was your birthday. It was your birthday. Let's go ahead.
Birthday. So there were 6 of us that went, and I mean we go in there and we get 2 of the bottles of wine at about $125 a pop, and then the old fashioned cart came around a few times, and we got the seafood tower.
We didn't
and all
even
that
talk
stuff.
about the old fashioned cart. I mean that's how you start the whole damn night off. Yeah,
with the whistle pig. I mean that was great, but by the time it was all said and done, it was about $1,100 before a tip for 6 people. So just to give you an idea of the amount of money that you're going to go in there and drop. But I mean, we got desserts, and it was just kind of crazy amount of sides and everything else. It was not a cheap meal, but when you're talking about 6 people going in there, it's about $200 a head by the time you're out the door. So it's definitely like an expensive dinner, but you're right, Matt. It's not one of those expensive dinners you go, man, I really wish I hadn't have done that. It was worth every bit of it.
Everyone's done that too, right? Like you leave and you get that tab and you sign it and you go, man, why did I do that? That's totally. No, not this way at all. And it, like we kind of glossed over it, but yeah, I mean, you start the night, you sit down, you order an old fashioned, they come and bring the cart right to your table side and make the thing right there in front of you to your specifications, I might add, because, I'm not big on the smoky and you guys are, and they'll sit there and they'll adjust how they make it for you right there. But Mahoney, you found a pro tip here, and another reason why you guys are watching the Vegas 10. We have a whiskey guy on the show here, and he comes with the pro tip.
So if you see the bottle that I have in my hand, this is a bottle of Stag Junior. This is one of the most sought after bourbons from our friends over there at Buffalo Trace. And the people at Cut happen to have that on their bourbon list. And here's the crazy thing. So the Whistle Pig 12, which is about $112 bottle, that was $35 for the smoked old fashioned, which we've seen places in Las Vegas where that's $50 and even $60. So I don't feel like they gouge you on the bourbons and the ryes that they have there. So I actually thought that was a reasonably priced old fashioned for what you were getting with the Whistle Pig 12. But with the Stag Junior, they had this on the menu. And so normally this bottle retails at about $60, but you have to know somebody, you got to get lucky or whatever. So it's not a super expensive bottle, but the way that most people will get their hands on this is on the secondary market. And this bottle can run anywhere from $250 up to $400 a bottle. And they had this on the menu for $25 a glass, if you were drinking it on the rocks like Dave and I did. And the crazy thing is, when our bill came, they had it listed at on the receipt for only $13 a drink. So I don't know where the mismatch was, but the Stag Junior, which is barrel proof at 130 proof, for only $13 or $25 is an absolute steal. And Dave and I enjoyed a couple of those. So, that is the hidden gem on there. And it's like, if you want to get your hands on some Stag Junior, I think that was batch 6 that they had, and they have some other ones on tap there as well. It's an absolute steal.
And guys, we got to give a hat tip to the pretzel rolls. I mean, come on, pretzel rolls. And Dave, you're not a big bread guy, but man, those pretzel rolls.
Those pretzel rolls are ridiculous. They bring the butter out, and the butter's already soft, which is also so imperative, right? Because the hard butter is just unforgivable. But the pretzel rolls, because you can ask for like a basket of bread, and you can just say, "Bring us all pretzel rolls," which we did.
Which we did.
The pretzel rolls. I mean, you wouldn't know it from looking at me, but I'm not a big bread guy. But the pretzel rolls were next level. I had a couple of those, and they were phenomenal. So really, start to finish. I mean, everything from all of the cocktails to the desserts that we got to the seafood tower and the steaks, it was phenomenal. And Kirsten said, "Damn it, Mahoney, I'm turning 38 in 3 weeks. I want this steak so bad. After hearing you describe it, I'm gonna have to do some convincing." You know what to do. Get out there and go get you that meal, because it is fantastic. And
it's once in a life. I mean, like I said, getting that A5 Japanese Wagyu, it is. You almost don't want to do it, because then you know how good something can be.
It's like flying first class. Like once you taste it, you're like, it's so hard to go back.
It's worse than that, Dave. It's worse, because this, like I said, it is like butter. It melts in your mouth, and we promise you will not be disappointed with our friends over there at Cut.
All right, so number 7 on the Vegas 10. Speaking of, if you decide you want to come to Las Vegas and ball out,
just spend all the money.
Yeah, whatever.
Hey,
yeah, I mean, so there. This is Shadow Creek, and if you're not familiar with Shadow Creek, first you're looking at this going, man, that is an incredible golf course in the middle of the desert, and it is literally in the middle of the desert. So this is kind of in North Las Vegas, and it's surrounded by nothing but flat desert. They built this course to look like this, and it really does. You feel like you're at Augusta when you go out there. Matt and I have had the good fortune of actually doing a couple of shows on the back patio of that clubhouse that you just saw there. But I mean, you walk into the locker room, and you're literally seeing, some of the most famous names in the world have their lockers there, but really it is a rolling, stunning, beautiful golf course in the middle of the desert. But the key here is that it's not. It
doesn't look like you're in Las Vegas.
So it doesn't. It absolutely looks like you're in the middle of Georgia, but it's in the middle of the desert at the same time. Matt, this course. If Georgia had mountains, this course is exclusive by design. So it's not the sort of place where you're going to go and it's going to be jammed out there. You almost see nobody else on the course, and that is by design. But you have to arrive via limousine, and you have to be staying at an MGM property to do it. And if this course looks familiar, it's because, as you see Phil Mickelson's name right there, him and Tiger Woods actually did their Tiger versus Phil match at Shadow Creek. But it is, again, if you're going to ball out, this is certainly a once-in-a-lifetime experience as well.
Yeah, I mean, this is when it was built, was one of the most expensive golf courses in all that had ever been built, because if you look at something like that, you got to imagine what you have to do to make the desert look like that, right? And so, I mean, this course cost upwards of $47 million whenever they built it, and it's a Tom Fazio course. And if you wondering about Tom Fazio, you heard of Augusta National? Yeah, where they play the Masters. Yeah, he did that course. Pine Valley, right there, #1 on the Golf Digest list of courses in America. Yeah, he did that one too. He actually did 3 of the top 5 courses in all of America. And Tom Fazio did Shadow Creek out here right in the middle of the desert. And you mentioned it, Mahoney, Dave, you mentioned it as well, but it's really hard for us not to emphasize, like, you are taken out of Las Vegas and you were just entering this place that you can't even believe you're in the middle of the desert, just lush greenery, waterfalls, trees everywhere that aren't pine trees. I mean, that aren't palm trees. It's just absolutely stunning what they've done with this place. And, you do have to be staked. There it is right there. Number 26 on the list is the best golf course in the United States. And yeah. And what you guys got to understand here is, as Dave mentioned, you got to be staying at MGM property. You got to be willing to. It's for golf enthusiasts for sure, because
you're looking at about $1,000 or so, maybe maybe more.
You can get on for about $400 or $500. You can get on for $400 or $500.
You take the tips, and because the one thing that I believe you do have to have is a caddy as well, and you don't want to play out a place like that without a caddy or a four caddy for your group if you have a foursome out there, and make sure you tip those guys well, because the desert heat is grueling, and these guys work very, very, very hard. So always make sure to tip your caddies well when you go out there as well. I mean, it's one of those things. Yeah. I mean, you saw that list of the best golf courses in the world, and the fact that this is coming in the top 50 is unbelievable. Yeah.
And a lot of times you come to Vegas to bucket list things anyway, right? I mean, like you're coming to Vegas to stay in this suite that you're never going to be able to stay in before. You come out here to eat a restaurant that you don't have anything like that even in your area where you live. Well, the same thing can be said for going into the desert, in the middle of the desert, and then poof, you enter this lush, crazy. Yep. But then you have that mountain still in the background to where you realize, oh, I am actually in the desert, despite the fact that I'm surrounded by all this lush greenery and all this stuff like that. And again, a golf course built by one of the very, very most prestigious golf course builders in all of the world, has built some of the most famous golf courses that you've ever heard of, or maybe that you haven't. But if you're a golf enthusiast, certainly something a buddy of mine, I have not played it. A buddy of mine did come out here and he's like, look, he's a huge, huge golf guy. And he said, it's a bucket list thing for me. He went and played it and said, it might've just been because I knew I was in Vegas. It might've just been because it had always been on my list of places to play. Maybe because I knew it was so exclusive that you had to be staying at an MGM property, and that they pick you up in a limo and you arrive and you meet your caddy who, starts talking to you about the various ways of the course and stuff. But he honestly said it was the best golf experience of his life. And I can believe that. If golf is one of your things, then I think it would probably feel the same way to you.
So if you want to do an outdoor activity like that here in Las Vegas, but you don't want to drop a whole boatload of money, do have some cheaper options for you as well. Coming in at number 8, this is actually Biking Las Vegas. So biking is actually pretty big around the city of Las Vegas for locals and visitors alike. So a lot of people, if you ever seen the vehicles coming into Las Vegas or leaving Las Vegas on a given weekend, the number of vehicles that have bikes strapped to them might actually surprise you. But there's a lot of really good places around the city for different levels of biking. So some of these places, like if you talk about the Red Rock Scenic Loop, you could even, entertain the idea of taking, a younger-ish kid on a bike ride around something like that. If you're talking about one of the, taking them up to Mount Charleston, there's obviously more challenging areas to bike up there, but there's a lot of people around the city that are biking enthusiasts, and this city has become more and more biking friendly over the last couple of years. But as you see there's actually a dedicated site to some of the top places to go, and the list is pretty extensive.
Yeah, well, and one of the interesting things, too, when you talk about biking in Las Vegas, talking about if you live in Summerlin, they're finishing out that trail that is going to connect Summerlin to the Red Rock Scenic Loop, which is even better. My wife's dad, actually, he's an avid biker, loves biking, and this thing for him, one of the things I always worry about is, like if you're biking from Summerlin to the Red Rock Loop, sometimes you got people driving really crazy and really fast, and always, you worry about your family. So the fact that they're going to add in a dedicated bike trail to go from Summerlin to the Red Rock Scenic Loop is absolutely amazing. I think it's great for the city. I think it's great for the bikers, and props to the city for taking people's advice and putting that in.
Yeah, I mean, look, we know some people are going to be driving in this weekend, which is why we wanted to include this in the list this week, because, hey, look, if you're coming in from LA or San Diego or coming up from Arizona or something, and if you're a biker, maybe you want to throw it on the back of your car, or throw it in the back of your vehicle, because there are actually some pretty cool places here that you can go. And you can see this is a list of 9 different places with miles and miles and miles and miles of track that you can hit. whenever you're here in town. And so this is over at LasVegasMagazine.com. Dave, I don't know if you can drop this link on the Facebook page or something like that, but we'll do that after the show if you can't do it live here. But if you want to check this out yourself, 9 different places that you can go and get in a nice bike ride here while you're, before your meal over at Cut, so you feel a little bit better about taking in some of those decadent sides and things.
I need the calories. Yeah. Chris commented over on Facebook. He said the Union Pacific Railroad Trail is pretty great as well. So that's actually right out by Lake Mead. So if you wanted to pop out towards Lake Mead and maybe you're going to enjoy some outdoor activities there, or you're going to bike all the way out there, that is a great thing to hike as well as bike. But the Union Pacific Railroad Trail is pretty great. Maybe we'll actually feature that on the Vegas 10 in the weeks to come. But you're right, Matt. Biking in Las Vegas has certainly exploded over the last couple of years, and something that's normally right now in the heat of things here in Las Vegas. Mahoney actually just dropped that over in chat, that link that you were talking about. Awesome. Over on Facebook as well as Twitch. But something that's normally going on right now here in Las Vegas is the World Series of Poker. But the World Series of Poker is not happening this year as we traditionally know it. However, there are still a lot of events, Matt, and so the WSOP is going to have an online series starting tomorrow.
Yeah, so if you guys are coming in town for the 4th of July, and we know some of you guys are, and even for the locals here, you might not have known about this, but there's going to be a bracelet given out every single day over the course of the month of July. And so some of these events you can get in for as little as $400. They are actually running satellites to many of these events as well. So if you don't know how that works, you can take a small amount of money and turn it into a buy-in for one of these bigger events. And so, say it's one of these $400 events, maybe you can get in for $20, right? They'll run like a $20 satellite to get in to some of these, but you can win an actual World Series of Poker bracelet playing in your underwear at home. And actually signing up for WSOP.com here in Nevada is actually not that bad. You don't have to physically go into a casino if you don't want to. So you can just sign up online. You will have to give them your ID and things like that to verify that you are who you are. So, I mean, and that's responsible gaming for online gaming. So that's just going to be something you're going to have to do if you want to do that anyway. But after you do that, you can actually deposit online as well. And you can start playing for some of these events. And again, some of them are as cheap as $400. And I mean, I understand if you're not an avid poker player, like just throwing $400, it might seem a little expensive, but you're actually playing for a World Series of Poker bracelet. I mean, it is online, but still, I mean, you'd get a physical bracelet if you won this thing. And so
it's a different skill set. It's a hard, I would love to walk away. I mean, think how many people we know who have World Series of Poker bracelets. That is a very, very elite group of players here in the world, and the fact that they're making it available for us to play at home, which I feel like there's actually quite a few benefits of that. One, you don't have guys who haven't showered for a couple days sitting directly next to you, and your poker face, you can do whatever you want with it. You don't have to wear sunglasses and the mask. You can do it all from home. So I actually love that the World Series of Poker is going to continue online this year, like they have planned.
They know that the traffic's going to be up because of this as well. So if you can't afford one of these, $400, $600 events or something like that, they're actually running some other tournaments that have like bigger guarantees as well, kind of in tandem with throughout the whole month of July as well, that you can get in for a lower price point, kind of the $50, $100, $150, $200 range as well. So, even if you can't afford to get in one of these, there are still other tournaments that you can win some pretty big money if you were to get lucky and get to the final table of one of those things for a more, palatable buy-in, if that is kind of a little bit too much, a little too rich for your blood.
And finally, coming in at number 10 of the Vegas 10, and this is great for young and old alike, is the high roller. So for people that are familiar here in Las Vegas, they know that this is a long-standing tradition that you take your friends and family in that come from out of town, because it's something that's really easy to access. So one thing, if you're able to, I know that a lot of people would recommend buying the VIP pass so you can skirt past the line. That is available for purchase. If you don't want to do that, you don't mind a little bit of a wait, they actually make the wait time pretty comfortable for you. So they actually have a bar area where you can take cocktails, not just take them down while you're waiting to get on it, but actually take them on the high roller with you, right? So they have all sorts of experiences when you go out there at the Link Promenade, where there's a whole bunch of restaurants, there's a whole bunch of shopping, there's a whole bunch of everything else. Casinos right there at the foot of it. But if you want to get up, and is that Grumpy Cat?
That is Grumpy Cat. R.I.P. Grumpy Cat.
R.I.P. Grumpy Cat. But yeah, see,
but even
Grumpy
he
Cat,
had a good time. He looks happy for Grumpy Cat right there.
He does.
He does. I guess so. For Grumpy Cat, yeah.
Grumpy Cat,
so the high roller, for example, my older brother and his wife and their 5 kids came into town this past week, and you go, well, what do you do with a group that big, especially with the weather that's kind of been all over the place? And the high roller is a great way to spend the day and also to see the city. I mean, my brother's kids, they range in age from basically newborn up to 10 years old, and the little kids, they're from Knoxville, Tennessee. Seeing the city from that vantage point in an enclosed thing. So it's not a Ferris wheel for those of you that aren't familiar with it. It's called an observation wheel. So these are enclosed pods, but it actually moves pretty well. So you're not just sitting stopped the entire time, but being able to see the city of Las Vegas literally from above it is pretty spectacular. And one thing that really stood out to them is that while they were at the top, it just so happened they got lucky with the timing, but the Bellagio fountains were going off at exactly that time. And so it's really just a spectacular view of the city. Fountains or not, day or night, you can enjoy this too. And as Stags just mentioned over on Twitch, he said great for locals too. So good rates for locals if you want to go out and enjoy that. But definitely one of those like pillar things that when you have people coming into town, whether you have people visiting or if you're in charge of planning for the group that are coming into Las Vegas for the week, the high roller over at the Link is fantastic. And as I mentioned, Matt, if you do have somebody that say is afraid of heights, there's all sorts of things to do right there on site. So if they want to go to a bar and have a drink or go shopping while you guys do the high roller, if somebody is not keen to the idea of being high up in the sky, there's plenty of options for them.
Well, Mahoney gave you a pro tip earlier. I'm going to give you a pro tip now. If you are enjoying some cocktails before you get on the high roller, just remember there are not bathrooms in the high roller pods themselves, and it does take a half hour. It does take a half hour to do a full rotation. So just be sure and take care of your business before you get in the pod, because what you don't want to do is have been holding it for half an hour and then you get on and it's another half an hour.
Luckily there are bathrooms right there, right before you get on though. So luckily, make a trip.
Yeah, make that trip. You don't want to get on there if you're holding.
You don't want to be the tourist that makes headlines for peeing inside of the high roller. We've seen that before. We don't want to see it again.
We do not. Listen, there are things you can do and get away with in Vegas. Peeing on the high roller is not one of them.
You shall not poop in the high roller, and you shall not jump in the Bellagio fountains. Okay, so there's not a lot of ground rules.
Don't be that guy. Yeah.
Stag said 50% off using the HR local code when you buy online. So definitely some good discounts for locals. And also, again, if you're entertaining and you happen to be a local, you have people coming in from out of town. Great way to save a little money for you and the people